Do you want the ultimate winged hussars to arrive? So do I. Do you want your space knights to fight in trench warfare? So do I. Do you want your 12-foot murder machines looking like they came straight from a factory? Never. We want them to look like the ultimate badass of badassitude. Let's get started. Step 1, we're gonna use Ushabti bone and we are gonna paint the entire mini in it. It would just be easier to do it this way. Step 2, we're gonna paint the robes in Caliban green. Step 3, we are going to paint all the wings white. This includes the wings on those little shin areas, on the icon, and on the back of the wings. Step 4, we are going to use Balthazar gold to paint the bronze areas. And for me, it was that little shield plaque, that little head thing above him, and the trim around the shoulders. Time to use gold. So for me, I painted the edge around the icon of the wings, as well as that little trim kind of decoration area on the robes. It's easier to use the side of your brush and do a little short burst to try to get those hard edges to get. That way it's a little easier. I used Dawnstone Gray for the Crux Terminatus, as well as that stone on the shield. We're going to use Abaddon Black for the black areas, and we're going to paint the joints, which is easier if you just water down the Abaddon Black just a little bit to where it's a little bit more than an ink-like substance in thickness, as well as the little plates on top of the emblems. For the metal parts, we're gonna use Iron Warriors. And I painted the sword as well as the sword on the icon and those little back vent things. Now to start that GIMDARK process, we're gonna wash the whole model in Agrax Earthshade. The whole thing. Just slather it all over. And when it gets too thick in an area, just use a dry brush and just soak up some of that Agrax Earthshade so it doesn't leave a gross watermark. Once the wash is completely dry, it is time to bring the model into the awesome badassitude that I have been talking about. To do this, we're gonna start off with Ushabti bone. We're gonna dry brush it off mostly with a paper towel first. And I like to use a larger brush because it's easier to blend with. We're going to tap it in or stipple, and we're just gonna go tap, 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 tap all over the mini. We want to just focus in general areas as well as top edges that light would directly hit. For that sweet, sweet battle damage, we're gonna use Eshin Gray, and we're gonna use this for little chip marks and little scratches on the armor. I mostly focus on the edges of the armor as well as little recess areas that you would see. From there, I'd make little scratches or little chips coming from that area. That way they're not just randomly placed, but kind of just chipping off from a certain area. For highlights on the winged areas, we're gonna use a white. Now for those shins with the wings, we're gonna focus on the outer edges. That way it looks like there's a shadow between the feathers. We're gonna do the exact same thing for the shield. Now for the back wings, we're gonna get a smaller brush, dry brush it down first using a paper towel. We're gonna dry brush in the direction of the wings. For highlights on the robes, we're gonna use War Boss Green. Now, I barely have any paint on the brush. Do this by just wiping it down on a paper towel first. And we're just gonna focus on those edges on the robes. Now, since there's barely any paint on the brush, you can kind of go around the robes, make those a little bit brighter by going over it just slightly with the brush. And in the areas that you want to be even brighter, just go over it more with that dry brush area, and I kind of just used the end of the brush to do that. Now for highlights on those bronze areas, we're gonna use Skorax Bronze, and we're just gonna focus on the edges and the bolts. I just use the end of my brush to kind of hit those hard to reach areas of the edges, and then just a little bit more paint on the brush and hit those little bolts with the tip of the brush. We're gonna go back to using Dawnstone, and we're gonna use that for highlights on that Crux Terminatus. I just kind of dry brushed it, and to do that, just use the paper towel. And for the shield, I just kind of spot it randomly and kind of focused on some of the edges. And then for the side, I just use the edge of the brush to kind of highlight all around it. Our last step is to use Iron Breaker for all those little highlights on those metal areas that we did. That's mostly just the vents on the back and the sword. What are you still doing here? If you're here this long, go subscribe or watch my next video. And if you want even more content, check out my gaming channel at Nuka Kitten Gaming. Bye!